Hello and welcome to today's Forte School Spotlight webinar. We're delighted to have J.D. Clark from Ivey Business School at Western University with us today. But before I introduce J.D., I'd like to say a few words about Forte for anyone who might be listening in that isn't familiar. Forte is a nonprofit organization that was founded in 2001 to support women in business careers, and in particular in business leadership career paths. We have 90,000 members, and our sponsor business schools have awarded more than $100 million in scholarships for women to help them pursue their MBA degrees. Forte is able to provide the resources that we do for women to support their career and education goals because of the terrific sponsors that we have. We have 51 business school sponsors in Canada, Europe, and the United States. And we're also supported by some amazing corporate and nonprofit sponsors. More than 45 make it possible for us to deliver resources to women. This webinar today is part of our pre-MBA webinar series, and we invite you to check out other webinars on the Forte website and take advantage of these resources. You'll find topics such as crafting your application. You'll be able to listen in to MBA alumni share their insights about their career paths and MBA journeys. There are sessions about financing your MBA, career sessions, and a whole series of webinars presented by our sponsor business schools. You can actually find these webinars at fortefoundation.org/pre-MBA, and we invite you to check them out. And with that, I'd like to turn this webinar over to J.D. Clark, who's the Executive Director of Master's Programs, Recruitment and Admissions at Ivey Business School at Western University. J.D., thank you so much for being with us today.
Yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity, Lori. And, you know, we here at Ivey Business School are delighted to be a sponsor for Forte. It's a great partnership for us. So thank you very much for the opportunity to be here today and share a little bit about the Ivey Business School MBA program. So I'm going to take you, everyone, through some slides just to talk and give an overview of our MBA program. But I want to start by saying that let this be the start of a discussion. You know, it's very important as you consider MBA programs that you engage with the school, talk to the school, because we're here to help you make a decision. Decision about, you know, two things, whether an MBA fits with your career goals and also which programs and options out there fit best with your goals moving forward. So I'm going to start just sharing with you the class profile here at Ivey and what our class profile looks like. So very diverse. You know, 60% are born outside of Canada. That's very reflective of the Canadian multicultural environment. About 26% of our students are international students, meaning that they immigrate to Canada to take our program. 28 years is the average age, 4.6 years of average work experience. And the work experience range tends to be between that 2- and 9-year mark. 70% male, 40% female, and then 665 is the average GMAT. And I'll talk about the GMAT near the end of the presentation in more detail when I talk about our admission requirements and things we look for in an applicant. About 1/3 of our students come from a business background, another 1/3 from engineering, and 1/3 from everything else. You know, I talk a lot when I'm out talking to candidates. It's so important as you look at class profiles for different schools and for MBA programs in general, not to self-select yourself out. So don't look at this and say, you know, oh, I don't fit a typical MBA candidate. The truth is, in all of our programs, you know, diversity is incredibly important. In our program, we've had people from backgrounds from not-for-profit, from fundraising, people with an arts background, medical physicians. We actually have in our program right now a Michelin-trained Michelin star chef. So one of the things I always say is that diversity is important. Do not self-select yourself out. Have discussions with the school about the diversity and the value that they put of diversity in their classroom. And then the last thing I want to talk about is, just before moving on the profile, is the industry makeup of the class. So it's incredibly diverse here at Ivey, which adds a lot of discussion that happens into our classroom, and diversity of backgrounds where people can learn from others where they came from in our classroom environment. So one of the pieces of advice that we have as candidates think about doing an MBA program, once you narrow down a short list of programs, it's so important to dig deep into those short list of programs. Look at, the classroom environment in the programs. Look at the way that the teaching is done, because at the end you want to choose a program that fits in a couple of ways. One is it has to fit with your career goals and objectives of where you want to go. The second thing is you want the classroom environment to really fit with your own personal learning style. So you're somebody that prefers a lecture-based, or somebody that prefers maybe a discussion-based, or an online, a part-time format. So, how does the way you like to learn and, fit with how the program is delivered? And the last thing is you want to choose a program where the culture, you feel really important and part of the culture. This is a decision you're making for your career moving forward. It's a large investment, and you want to make sure that not only is there a fit from sort of those quantitative aspects, such as where it's located and the course curriculum and what it delivers, but also in some more of that, aspects where you're, those soft things, where the culture and how it fits with you. So I'm going to walk a little bit about how we do teaching at Ivey, give you a sense of what our classroom environment is like, but we also have a class visit program. So if you are not located near our campus, as part of our application process, we have a travel bursary that allows individuals to come and experience our classroom environment. And that's really, really important as you start to consider doing something like this. So the basis of our classroom is around case study method approach to learning. And there are 4 true case schools in the world. There's Darden, there's IMD in Lausanne, Switzerland, there's Harvard, and there's Ivey. Here at Ivey, we are the 2nd largest producer of case materials outside of Harvard University. So we sell all our materials to other business schools around the world. And the case study methodology environment is not lecture-based. And it's really an environment where, as part of your learning, you have to take those knowledge and frameworks that you're learning and the theories that you're learning and apply it right away to a situation. So the classroom environment becomes a discussion about a real business situation where a decision needs to be made and needs to be executed. So how it works is individually you were assigned, in each class there's a case, sometimes there's 2 cases a class. You work through those cases yourself. You get to understand the theories and the frameworks that fit the business problem. The faculty member will lay out the learning outcomes. Our expectation is that we put you in different teams through the program, and the expectation is before you get into class, you've discussed the case with your team. Not coming to agreement, but what you're doing is saying, here's what I think, here's what you think, and sort of testing some of your thoughts and hypotheses before you get into the classroom. And the classroom environment is very much an environment where it's a discussion about a business issue. The students in the class go back and forth with one another. The faculty member in the class will, facilitate this discussion and do a couple of things. Make sure that key learnings are highlighted, and make sure that, really the students are applying their learning to a real situation. So the case study methodology does a couple of things. The first thing is that it gives you knowledge, but more than that, it takes it to a level where you're gaining experience. You are applying the learnings in the program right away as you're going through and working through real business problems and real business issues. And, the best analogy that I use for it, it's like a flight simulator. You can teach somebody how to fly a plane and, the different instrumentation and different things, but you don't know how to really do it until you get into a flight simulator. And that's what our classroom environment is like. You'll work through about 300 cases. And, you know, that allows you the ability to get an experience across a ton of business issues, tying together your learning across different courses on these business issues, but also, more importantly, get a really strong understanding of different industries and the different pressures that are out there across them. I'm going to talk now about our curriculum and how our curriculum is laid out. So we have a one-year program, starts in March of each year. 2 weeks before the program starts, in the middle of March, we have what we call pre-Ivey classes. And if you are coming from a non-business background like myself, I graduated with a history degree, and you need some more knowledge about accounting and finance, statistics, economics, this is a great opportunity for you to brush up on those skill sets before the program starts. Program starts with what we call Business Essentials, and that goes until September. So middle of March until the first part of September, you are completing what we call Business Essentials, which you will see in every MBA program. Sometimes it's called core or foundation courses, but these are 9 courses that are all across the various business disciplines. So accounting, finance, leadership, IT, operations, strategy. So these courses that kind of span all those foundational areas. From September until the mid part of February, a couple of things are going on. The first thing I want to talk about is career-focused elective courses. So this is the opportunity for you to customize your MBA curriculum, sort of in 2 aspects. One is if you're going into a certain career path, you know, there are certain courses that you have to take as part of the electives. But there's also this part that's your own personal development. So say, for instance, I've never really had to, negotiate anything before, be part of any big negotiations. And, I'd like to take the negotiations course to kind of fill that gap. Or maybe you feel communications for you is an area of improvement, so you may take a communications course. But we are here to help guide you when you're in the program to which courses, really fit your own personal development, but also fit for those career paths goals that you have afterwards. One of those electives is an international trip. So the class in December, we have about 75% of the students that decide to do an international trip. They can do a choice between India and Singapore, Asia, and Latin America. It's a great opportunity in a couple of ways. It's a great class event. The other thing that happens as well is that it's a really good sense of what it's like to do business internationally. So giving the people, you learn about it in class, but then giving you an on-the-ground experience. For individuals that would like a stronger immersive experience, we have the opportunity for you to do take some of your electives at one of our exchange schools. We have 16 exchange schools that we have elective courses available. So that's your ability during the elective period to actually go and live in that country, go to that school, and take courses and your electives in those schools. And that's really for individuals that want an opportunity to really immerse themselves in a different international environment, maybe develop a network in that environment to live afterwards, or even do coursework that's really specific to that area of the world. There's also a major real-world project part of the program, and usually takes, 2 pathways. And this is really, you do the casework as you go through the program, but these major real-world projects allow you to work on a live case as you're going through the program, so a real issue going on at that time. And so you can either work for an existing organization on a problem that they're having and really help consult them around that problem, or it may be the fact that you have a new venture idea and you would like to take that idea more to fruition. And so on the new venture side, individuals have the opportunity to pitch to venture capitalists, to have access to accelerators afterwards. In fact, 2 of our student groups right now from last year are working in the accelerator right now, taking their business idea even further. The program ends with a module that we call Leading Cross Enterprise. And the best way to describe this module, it's about getting you to think like a CEO. So it's looking at issues from a very macro, from a very global level, and ending the program. And I always think the step from a CEO is not only making great decisions and having strong judgment, it's about having strong wisdom. And this module at the end of the program is really about getting you to think like a CEO. How do you manage risks? How do you anticipate risks that are out there and how it impacts your organization? On this slide, for me, this is the most important slide in the presentation because it talks about how the case study methodology and the curriculum work together on what you can expect on your development as a leader coming out of this program. Because at the end of the day, you're taking an MBA to grow your career and grow your career into more leadership roles. So I'm going to talk about this slide, and we call this Ivey Leadership Essentials, and I'm going to go through each one. The first one is this idea of a bias for action. We work with a lot of organizations on their talent needs with our executive development, and one of the things that the organizations say on a regular basis is, we have lots of smart people in our organization. Having the knowledge and being smart is a commodity to get in, but what we need is smart people that can get things done. And when you go through these cases in our program, you are forced to make a decision, but you're also forced to say why you believe in that decision and how you're going to implement it. So there's a real bias for action to kind of take your ideas and point of view and put it into action. One of my favorite cases I did in the program was about McDonald's. It was whether McDonald's should get into the hotel business. And, they were looking at diversifying their business and what to do. And so, my point of view is I think they should. And, the next question is why? Why do you think that? And then the next question is, how are you going to get that done? So a real bias for action, that's part of faculty's role in that classroom, is really push people to take what they're, deciding and take the cases and give them an action orientation around it. Communicating persuasively is important. I mean, you're going to be, the obvious thing is get better at presentation skills and such, but in a case study environment, when you walk in there and you share your point of view as part of the classroom, you're not sure what you're going to get back. So your ability to walk into that room, just like you'd walk into a boardroom after the program, and being able to communicate your thoughts in a clear, concise manner, but also manage what you're going to get back and be able to pivot your communication style. There are many times when people walk into the classroom where, what they say, they may have not prepared for, what has come back at them and how they adjust. And I'm going to say a word that's a couple times through this slide, but the part about communicating persuasively and doing it well, part of that is confidence. And you develop a lot of confidence in our school and just going through and making sure that you feel a lot more confident in your communication style. So a really important part of our program is you'll get a lot of practice in the classroom in communication and in really developing that confidence. Maximizing team potential is also important. I mean, every MBA program, you're going to work in teams. You're going to get used to working with other individuals. Extremely important part of the learning process of any MBA program. The case study does it in a different way as well, is that you're solving problems with other people. And what you start to learn is also, how you solve problems and some of those gaps maybe in your problem solving and how you can manage teams moving forward in your career. I was talking to an alumni last night, and she said one of the greatest learnings she had in the program is she always wanted to solve the problem quick and didn't take time to understand the issue. And so she realized that, what I need to do is really surround myself with some other people that really bring in, that patience aspect and look at the details so I understand the issue before I go into problem solve. And she ended that point by saying, the greatest thing she got from the program is she was a faster, better decision maker. Managing volume is another one that's important. This is a one-year program. It is an intense program, not only academically, but there's lots of opportunities to get involved into clubs, various sports activities, the social aspect of the program that's strong. You know, one of the great things about our program is you're in a small city, a university, a town, London, Ontario. Everyone that comes into our program's relatively small at 150 students, but everyone that comes into our program, I mean, they're there, they come there to study. And so it's a fully immersive experience for that 1 year. You know, so you learn how to balance things and you learn how, you know, that aspect of working hard. One of the recruiters, you know, recently asked a question, how do you, when you're hiring people, you know, pick out that, you know, the work ethic aspect? And they said, we don't need to in your program because we know that they work hard if they've gone through your program. So very immersive experience. The other thing that you learn in working through these cases is they're very complex problems. And sometimes, you know, you can't solve all of it at once. And great leaders are the people that are able to prioritize and focus the organization in on the problem that's most important, then move on to the next one and move on to the next one. And so you really develop that way of thinking as you go through these cases. And that leads me to my last point about embracing complexity. This is a program, again, where your confidence is developed. You're going to work through many business problems where you have too much information, not enough information, and your ability to feel confident with embracing complexity, you know, happens when you leave this program. So what I'm going to talk about now is career management. You know, talk about how, you know, not only our results around it, but as well as how we, you know, what's behind those results as well. So we have the highest placement rates. This is amongst Canadian business schools 3 months after graduation. So you'll see placement rates reported 3 months and 6 months after graduation. We report them after 3. And we have the highest placement rates in Canada for MBA programs. 95% of our MBA grads make at least a career transition. So they've changed industry, function, and for international students have changed geography. A large portion of our international students, almost 99% of our international students will choose to live and work in Canada after our program. And then, you know, finally, the recruiters rank us #1 MBA program in Canada 3 years in a row. So as part of Business Week, they go out and they ask recruiters about the talent that come out of the schools, and we've been ranked #1 MBA program in Canada 3 years in a row. So I want to talk about the reason behind, well, sorry, before I go there, I just want to share, here is where the industries where people go to after the MBA program. So about 1/3 go into finance, 1/4 go into consulting, and then the rest go everywhere else. Even if you're not interested in a career in finance or consulting, it's important that you look at, you know, the firms from those areas that come to the school, that recruit students, that hire students from those firms, because it's a sign of the quality of the students that you will be in the room with. So what I want to do now is talk about 3 things that are important behind our results in career management. The first one is this aspect that we really focus on making sure that our program is a good fit for your career goals and expectations. And I'll talk about this in the admissions part because we involve in the interview our career management department. One of the questions we get a lot being a 1-year program is we don't have an internship, and from candidates that think, do I need an internship or not? And it really depends. It depends on what your work experience was before, you know, what impact, what accomplishments did you have in that organization. And we have a strong track record in a 1-year program with high placement rates, but also people that are able to make career changes. So I always say to people, if you're wondering about that decision, we're here to help you with that decision, whether a 1-year program or 2-year program fits. And we do that through our admissions and application stage. So one of the you know, rankings we're proud of is we're #1 in Canada for Aims Achieved. And this is asking, you know, Financial Times asking the students, this is 3 years out after graduation, how was the Ivey program in delivering what your goals and expectations were as you came out of the program? The other thing that we do is right when you start the program in day 2, you are starting a very robust, very personalized career management program for you. And this program is really sophisticated, you know, to give you those skills in managing your career even moving forward. I strongly suggest that, managing your career is like going to the gym. It should be something that's part of your regular practice. It's an important thing for you to do post-MBA. And our goal is not only just that job post, right after the MBA, but gives you those skill sets to pivot and manage your career moving forward. Career management is much more than, giving you a good cover letter and resume. It's a very robust program about, how to network appropriately, how to deal with situations where you're having behavioral interviews, what's your narrative, how to tell storytelling is becoming a big part of the preparation that we do. And so we are ranked top 10 in the world for student assessment of career services by economists. So they asked our students, how was career management supporting you? And we were ranked in the top 10. And the last thing I want to talk about that's critical to our success in career management before I get into the application process is our alumni network. We have been ranked top 3 in the world by economists for the power of our alumni network, and this is what our students thought about the alumni network. And this is an incredibly important aspect of being part of Ivey, is that you have access to a very caring network. And I say that honestly, is that they really care about the success of each other and care for the success of students. And so one of those, if you explore us further, I'd encourage you to talk to, and we will put you in touch with alumni and current participants to give you stories about how alumni have helped them. But our students have found it incredibly valuable as they go through the recruitment process, that support of alumni that are there. We really have a culture at Ivey of paying forward and really caring about, the students, but also fellow alumni. So I'm going to switch gears and talk about the application process that we have here at Ivey. And I'm going to talk about it by sharing with you what our assessment is based on. But I want to be clear that this assessment is taken holistically. So there are going to be things where you feel like, I'm really strong in this area, but maybe weaker in this area. But we base it on 5 factors, and I'm going to go through each one. The first is this leadership experience and potential. And what we're looking for there is, what you do, and what you've done, but also more importantly, what impact and what accomplishments have you had? So what impact have you had on others? What impact have you had on the organization? And, what are those accomplishments you're most proud of? We look at your previous academic experience. So know where you did your degree, what type of degree it is. We look at your, average in the last 2 years of study, whether that's a master's or an undergrad. But we look at that in combination with the GMAT. So we use the GMAT and we use your previous academic experience to look at, have you had proof that you can address the intellectual rigor of this program? And so, we get a lot of questions before where people say, I didn't do well in my undergrad, I have below average grades, I don't think I can get into a program. And my comment always back to them is, you can't control what happened in the past, but what you can do is control moving forward. And if you write a strong GMAT, then that will negate that poor undergraduate grade performance that you have. So we ask for 2 references, people that can speak about your character and abilities. My biggest advice around references is, give them to people that can give context, people that have observed your work. Sometimes people will get the CEO of their organization fill it out, but they haven't really observed your work on a daily basis. But, we're less picky about who these references are. We're more concerned about getting context around those references. So make sure that you pick people that can speak about your character and abilities. The admissions interview. So this interview, as I mentioned before, is done with members of our career management department. Incredibly, helpful for you. And it's about learning more about you, learning more about your career goals, and just really for you to have that opportunity to determine fit with us and for us to also determine that opportunity too. But this is really a discussion to get to know you more on a personal level and a discussion around that fit aspect and really what the fit with our program is with your career goals. And then on the GMAT, again, it depends on your previous academic experience, but you want to get at least a score of 600 or above to be competitive. I'm just waiting for the slide to move forward here. One thing I'll just, on the next slide, just talk about is just on the support that we provide. So one of the first steps that you'll do with us is what we call coordinate a preliminary assessment. So what we do is you send us, and I'll show you the slides, the next slide right after the links for that, but you send us your resume. Don't do a special one for us, or even your LinkedIn profile, and we look at your background and look at your schooling and determine whether or not you should go forward with an application. So it's not making an admissions decision, but it also is giving you that early indication of your fit with your profile to move forward. We'd be happy to arrange for you to experience the Ivey classroom, travel bursary to come visit us, put you in touch with current students or alumni as well. We're here to provide you support throughout the application, so any questions people have about the application, our goal is to make sure that you are presented in the best possible light. And then finally, guidance on loan programs and scholarships. So give you a sense of the scholarships and how that works. We consider everyone for scholarships equally, no matter where they've applied and where they've applied from, whether they're domestic or whether they're international. Our scholarship, about 70% of our class receive a scholarship. The average award's around $25,000. Range in award is from $10,000 to about $65,000. We will make that decision on your scholarship the same time you apply. But what's very important is no matter where you apply, you consider equally. We look at the scholarships on a merit basis, so it's the overall strength of your file. And, just to give you a sense, the largest scholarship that we gave out last year was the second last person that applied. So again, we're here to guide you in anywhere and help you in any way that we can, and I'd strongly suggest that any program that you're applying for is make sure that you reach out to the admissions and recruitment staff because we are here to help you. And then the last slide, as I mentioned, is just before I close off, is around the next step. So this is the link to send your resume for preliminary assessment. This is for you if you want to look at the various events that we have, including coming to visit a class, but also an online information session. And then the last is about submitting your application. We have application dates, but we also do rolling admissions, which means that submit your application whenever you can, and we will review it on an ongoing basis. So we don't hold the application back. We review them as they come in. But I want to thank you for the opportunity to listen to this webinar. I hope that you found it helpful, and I want to thank Forte again for the opportunity to do this webinar. And, please reach out to us. Any questions, anything we can do to help you, not only just about Ivey, but also help you in your MBA research overall. So thank you very much.